Yes, latest in the world of business. Well, let's start with heavy news coming now from the National Bureau of Statistics, where they say Nigeria's headline inflation declined to 24.48% in January 2025, creating uncertainty around the future of interest rates. This comes after the rebasing of the Consumer Price Index to better reflect changes in the consumption patterns. The new data marks a sharp decline from 34.80% headline inflation recorded in December 2024. The Bureau, under the leadership of the Statistician General of the Federation, Mr. Adeyemi Adeniran, announced last month that a rebasing exercise will commence, noting that a consumption pattern had shifted significantly since the last update, and 2024 would now serve as the new base year for calculating inflation. Breakdown for the figures: urban inflation stood at 26.09%. Rural inflation came in lower at 22.15%, which indicates that urban areas experienced slightly higher price increases than rural areas in the same period. In terms of food inflation, which remains a critical concern for many Nigerians, the rebased figure showed a decrease, with food inflation dropping to 26.08% in January, down from 39.84% in December 2024. Meanwhile, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, is calling for stronger economic ties with the Middle East and Nigeria's diaspora community in the region. This is contained in a statement issued by the Corporate Communications Department of the Apex Bank in Abuja. The Apex Bank governor said this during a meeting with the Assistant Governor for Monetary Affairs, Saudi Arabia Central Bank, Tatal Al-Hamoud, on the sidelines of the just concluded inaugural conference on emerging markets economies organized by the Ministry of Finance, Saudi Arabia, and the International Monetary Fund Regional Office in Riyadh. According to him, Saudi Arabia's dedication to diversifying its economy through innovative environmental projects, large-scale transformation, and tourism investment is essential for development, and reaffirms his dedication to collaborating with Nigerians in diaspora community in the Middle East to improve remittance flows and strengthen Nigeria's financial sector. The governor said the CBN would continue enhancing macroeconomic fundamentals to establish an enabling environment that will facilitate the growth of the private sector and the generation of high-quality jobs. And moving on now, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, says Nigeria needs to diversify its economy into non-oil resources to accelerate economic development. The minister said this in Abuja at the National Treasury's workshop with the theme Nigeria's Revenue Challenges and the Way Forward, exploring non-oil alternatives. The minister, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Finance, Mrs. Lydia Shehu, said the theme of the workshop is both timely and imperative, while underscoring the urgent need to rethink the nation's revenue generation strategies. He said the recent global shifts in energy policies, declining oil demand, and fluctuating crude prices have jointly made it abundantly clear that the country cannot afford to be overly dependent on oil revenues, as the country is blessed with abundant natural and human resources that remains largely untapped. And in other news, Africa's global bank, United Bank for Africa PLC, has demonstrated its commitment to fostering peace and stability across Africa with a donation of $500,000 to the African Union Peace Fund. The donation is to support the AU's efforts towards promoting security, conflict resolution, and sustainable development and unified Africa, as ambitioned in the AU's Africa Agenda 2063. The AU Peace Fund plays a critical role in financing mediation and preventive diplomacy efforts across Africa, strengthening institutional capacity and ensuring rapid responses to emerging conflicts. UBA support underscores its dedication to the collective progress of African nations, reinforcing the group's long-standing belief that economic growth and regional stability go hand in hand. The Chairman and Executive Management Committee of the AU Peace Fund, Mr. Faki Mohammed, commended the United Bank for Africa for demonstrating their commitment to the development of the continent through sustainable resources. UBA's group chairman, Mr. Tony Lumelu, who announced the donation in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, highlighted the role of corporate institutions in shaping Africa's future and driving sustainable development and economic prosperity for all. European futures hit a record peaks today as defense stocks soared on expectations of a spending bump, while the Hong Kong shares were on the verge of a 3-year high as investors cheered business leaders meeting with President Xi Jinping. S&P 500 futures were up 0.2%. European futures added 0.1%, while Japanese Nikkei rose 0.5%, with bank and defense-related shares taking their cues from Europe's rally. The Pan-European Stock 600 index closed 0.5% higher as a gauge of defense and aerospace stocks surged 4.6% of lifetime peaks, having already more than doubled in value since Russia invaded Ukraine 3 years ago. In China, markets have been buoyed by a rare meeting between Xi and business leaders. Hong Kong's Hang Seng touched its highest since October, and an index of tech shares hit a 3-year high before some selling kicked in. U.S. funds KKR has signed an agreement with Italy's Eni to buy an additional 5% stake in Eni's biofuel business, Enilive, and that's for 587.5 million euros, which is about $614 million US, bringing its total stake to 30% to the energy group. The leading global investment firm signed an agreement in October to buy a 25% stake in Enilive, a deal expected to end in March. Eni said the additional 5% stake sale is based on the same overall valuation as the October agreement, equal to a consideration of 11.7 billion euros. The company's sales is part of Eni's satellite strategy to bring in co-investors to growth businesses and seeks to raise funds to help the company to decarbonize its products. Brent crude oil prices advanced today, adding to the gains in the previous session after a drone attack on an oil pipeline pumping station in Russia reduced flows from Kazakhstan. But gains were capped on the prospect of supply rising soon. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude rose to sell for $71.57 per barrel, with an upward price review of 1.17%. Brent crude futures experienced an upsurge of 0.40% to sell at $75.52 per barrel. Bonny Light sells for $78.62, with a decline of 2.84%. And for the OPEC basket, crude oil dealers offer $76.79, with an uptick of 0.72%. That's business news at this hour. I'll see you at the top of the hour for Business Nigeria. Next is sports news.